1, 2, 3. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Entrepreneur Life Podcast.
So excited.
Your go-to podcast for all things entrepreneurship, accounting, and lifestyle. It's been a minute.
Let's go.
I'm excited.
I'm super excited.
It's been a minute. Yeah. So today we're doing a little bit of a role reversal. I have here with me one of my closest friends, Sandra Oleaga, who has so graciously decided to interview me. I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of update. It's been a minute since we did an episode. It's been a couple months. And so much has changed.
Right. Like, where's Katey? Where has she been?
Where in the world is Katey San Diego?
She's not on Instagram? What?
She deleted social media, moved across the country.
Oh my gosh. Where in the country?
Yeah. To be determined. So we just want to give you guys a little bit of update on what is happening, where has my life been, what really happened, and what's it going to look like going forward for me, for this podcast, for my business. There's just been so much change. So I'm excited. I don't fully know what she's going to ask. There is no...
I don't know what I'm going to ask.
There is no... It's right here. There is no script on the Entrepreneur Life podcast. We're all about organic conversation.
We're going with the flow. Which, by the way, did you see my Katey shoes?
Absolutely, I did. The honorary pink fur.
I had to. Like, you said pink. And I'm like, I had to take it from you because... You know, fur. It's Katey. Katey Maddux.
But make it Katey.
Make it Katey. Make it Katey. Make it Katey.
Yeah, maybe that should be like a trademarked.
I think so too. Yeah. Make it Miami. Make it Katey. You know what else?
Make it California.
Oh, let's go.
This might be our permanent new set. We haven't decided yet. Still figuring out the things. The blue chairs are now. The infamous blue chairs are in storage in Miami, Florida.
We're going to have to figure out a way to make it.
Yeah.
To bring them back over here.
Yeah. Maybe we'll...
One last show.
Another road trip. No more road trips.
No more road trips. No, I think I'm good.
Yeah. All the road trips.
I'm good. No, I'm good. I'll take the planes anytime.
Here for the airplanes. Love a good airplane. Make sure you talk loud into the mic.
Right.
So that the people who really want to hear you.
That's right. Okay, we're going to do this.
Let's do it. I'm nervous, you guys.
All right. So honestly, as we talked about, as you mentioned just now, no one knows where you've been. Absolutely nobody. And you made no announcement on social media that you were going to be leaving, which not a lot of people do that.
Yeah.
So I honestly kind of want to start with what happened.
Yeah.
Why the decision to leave social media and what changes have happened that have led you. I don't want to make it about social media. I want to make it more about what's been happening in your life that essentially led to taking a break and, you know, almost like having the feeling to do the reset within your life.
I think so much of my life has been revolved around social media, you know, between like my personal brand and the business. And then when the podcast came alive, like you had to be on social. How else was I going to get the message out there? But, and we'll talk more about this, I think, later in the conversation. Yes. Now, being out here in California, I really just wanted to get clarity and get some rest, honestly. Being on social media, it's like you constantly have to produce. And that's one of the things that I've loved about getting out of my normal environment and being out here in California is that, first of all, I have no friends here. So, I mean, I have like five friends, maybe.
You do.
Yes. But because there's no social network, there's no one like encouraging me to be anywhere or go to anything or produce content. There's like no pressure. I feel like I'm in a time warp. There's no pressure to produce. And I was thinking to myself, like, when was the last time that I had this quiet time and this quiet place where literally no one expects me to be anywhere because nobody knows that I'm here and nobody knows who I am, of detoxing and really going after, like, God, what do you want for me in this season? And what is this supposed to look like without sitting at home scrolling? Because what do we do when we're alone? We scroll, right? And so I'm like, okay, how do I be in a new environment where I am alone and not scrolling so that I can really clearly hear God and really clearly know, just get clarity.
Right.
Boils down to clarity.
I love that. It's so important. you know that I'm the queen of like, I'm stepping away from social media.
Yeah.
And that's
the roles have reversed.
For real. I was like, where is Katey? I was the one that left social media for a long time. And then all of a sudden I'm back, and then Katey decides to leave. And mind you, you're the one that would always call me out on not being on social media. So tables have turned, which I'm very grateful for, because it's a new you. At the end of the day, it's a new season. So tell me more about this new season, how it all started.
Wow.
And yeah, tell me more.
Where it started. Honestly, I feel like I should start with like where I am. I'm in California.
Yes.
Welcome to my new home.
Right.
We are in my new place out here. It
very
is
gorgeous, very zen.
Thank you. It's full of plants. So shout out to Lauren who helped me with the plants.
Let's go. The whole move.
Yeah. And, you know, I'm not in a contract here. I live in an Airbnb, so it's really open, right? Like, I could leave if I wanted. I could stay if I wanted. There's no, you know, I'm really just following the direction of the Lord. But I'm in Northern California, in Redding, about 2 hours south of the Oregon border, which is never a place that I had. If you had given me a map and was like, where are the places you want to live in your life? Northern California
would not be it.
Would never have been on that list. And yesterday we went hiking, went to some waterfalls and out to Mount Shasta, and like we're driving through these mountains in the middle of nowhere, and I'm just like, I can't believe this, that I moved literally like polar opposite ends of the country. Here we are. But I've been in ministry school since 2020. So I did 3 years at BSSM, and now I'm doing technically their 3rd year program. It's my 4th year because I did part-time at the beginning, which slowed the process down. But I didn't really know what was going to happen when I finished BSSM, because for the last 3 years I'd been balancing running my business with doing ministry school.
Right.
And then I was leading at VU. And then this beginning of 2023, I stepped down from leading at VU, and I really more focused on building my own ministry, which I had started at the beginning of 2022, right? Mm-hmm. Mighty Warrior Ministries, Holy Spirit Sessions, the women's ministry. And so
amazing.
I love, you know, doing that ministry. And I just felt like the Lord's like, I need you to pivot, you know, but it never occurred to me that he meant pivot to the other side of the world. You know, like that wasn't part of the conversation. Right. And so it was really when I was in Cambodia in March I went on a trafficking mission trip, child trafficking. It's like before Sound of Freedom came out, before it was like a super trendy conversation, not to diminish.
Absolutely.
You know, I think it's good that it's trendy, quote unquote. I hate using that word about something so serious.
No, it's like, it needs to be talked about. It's a topic that it's just put, you know, it's brushed behind, you know, under the rugs, and it's something that it's happening. Right. People need awareness.
Absolutely.
And
it's in the forefront.
Exactly. And I think that it just happens to be confirmation to what projects that you were already being part of. Mm-hmm. And so that I understand when you say like it was prior to Sound of Freedom coming out. It's because it's something that you've had, that God's placed in your heart for a long time now. Mm-hmm. So you're saying.
Thank you. Yes, true. But I had gone with my ministry school and Iris, my now basically employer, Iris Global, on this trafficking trip in Cambodia. And I don't know what you know about mission trips, but a lot of things often happen when you're on a trip, when you've just like given up, right? Even temporarily, like your life for God, and you're out doing the work, you know, and it's like everything kind of comes against you is what it feels like.
So you're pausing. You're literally pausing everything that, you know, you've planned so far, that society tells you that you ought to do. Mm-hmm. And then you're stopping at everything for the calling of God. And that's just simply like not common. So what are the things that you've encountered
while in Cambodia? Found out I was losing my house due to mold. And then my accounting assistant quit. My executive assistant quit, both over text message. Literally, as I'm like leaving my the apartment we were staying in Cambodia, to go do we were going to the slums that morning. And I'm like, as if there wasn't enough heaviness around like trafficking in the slums, you know, like it's not really a casual day at the office, to learn that I'm losing everything, you know?
Right.
And I was like, God, this isn't really funny.
Right.
Like, what am I supposed to do? You know, why does it feel like my whole world is crashing down? And I remember one of my leaders just being like, Katey, put it in a box and put the box on the shelf.
Right.
And when the ministry trip is over, you can take the box back off the shelf and go through the box.
That's like great advice.
And that really gave me permission to be present in that moment of like, we're doing the Lord's work. And it reminds me of Nehemiah when he's like, I'm doing the Lord's work. I don't have time to go meet you in the valley of Ono. That was literally what it's called in the Bible, right? The valley of Ono. Right. Nehemiah's like, I'm doing a great work here. And you, distraction, are calling me to the valley of Ono. If that doesn't tell you what it is, like just in the title, I don't have time for this, you know? Right. And that's kind of what it was like, I don't have time to go to the valley of Ono and deal with my life in Miami falling apart. Right. So I'm going to put that in a box and put it on the shelf. And I did that. And then I got back to Miami. And we'll have to talk about Korea, because after Cambodia, I went to Korea. And that was like a huge piece of this puzzle. But basically just putting that whole thing on the shelf until I got home. And then getting home and being like, and my whole life is falling apart. And what are we going to do about it? Right. And honestly, I still didn't know. It was when I got home from that trip that the Lord said to me, gosh, I hope I don't get emotional on this podcast. I need you to get used to the idea that you're leaving Miami. And even saying that just like is so emotional to me. Right. Because you know how much I loved my life in Miami. Right. And I think everyone I told like I'm moving away was like, but you left Miami.
We're like, she's coming back. Like,
I know that I love Miami.
I think we were all in denial.
Everyone was in denial. Up until the day I left, people were still like, you're not leaving, you know?
Because we're so used to you traveling. Like, a huge percentage of your life involved traveling. So we were used to you not being in Miami. Yeah. But always coming back to Miami. Yeah. Always having like the Holy Spirit sessions. Always having. Not that that's going anywhere. But all of us were just like, okay, this is just another one of her trips. And she will be back soon.
It'll be fine. Yeah. And I was like, what do you mean? You want me to get used to the idea that we're leaving Miami? And he said, will you go? Are you willing to give it all up? And I'm like, to go where? And he's like, that wasn't the question. Right. The question was, are you willing to give it up? I'm going to cry. Right. And I said, yeah, I am, Lord. Like, I'll go wherever we're going. I'll go, you know, take me with you, you know? And he was like, great, pack your bags. And I literally started packing up my house, not knowing where we were going, you know, not knowing what would be next. And I didn't have to. I was going to Reading for graduation, you know, second year graduation. And I just felt like book a one-way ticket, because you don't know what's going to happen next. You know, I had to move out of my house because of the mold. And outside of that, no plans. Right. Don't know where we're going. And came out here for graduation and got sick when I got here. I had a fever, like 103 fever. And I'm just like, why is it every time I come to Reading, I get really, really sick, you know? And after the third or fourth time of that, I'm like, there's a pattern here, and I can't figure out the pattern, but it feels like a pattern, you know? Right. And so the day of graduation, I still had a fever. And I'm like, I'm going to take a bunch of COVID tests to make sure I'm not, you know, my autoimmune stuff. Like, I get fevers when no one else around me is sick, but my body is fighting something or fighting itself. And so I was like, let me make sure I'm not going to get anybody else sick. But I'm going to graduation. And I went. And I'm sitting at graduation. And the Lord says to me, you can do third year if you want. And third year being the third year program in ministry school. And like, third year had to be done in California. Right. Not in Miami. And I literally responded to God. I said, great, thank you for the offer, but I don't want.
Right.
And that was the end of that. Like, I was like, done, you know?
I want to talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah.
Because, you know, people, we all say we have to be obedient. Let's talk about obedience. Because before you finish your story, right, this is a place where a lot of people find themselves in, where we have a calling from God. We've heard it. Sometimes some of us is not clear. Some of us it's clear as water.
Yeah.
And making that decision, it's hard.
So hard.
It's hard. And it doesn't necessarily mean that we want to make the decision, right? Like our flesh wants something different.
Yeah.
Or even not our flesh, we just want something different.
Yeah.
And we're not in agreement because we can't see the other side of what God is seeing. However, like we know there's like something uncomfortable in us, right? That it's like, okay, what are the consequences of not doing this? But lead us more into what obedience looked like in that moment. Because you've had to make that decision. This is not the first time. However, it's probably, and correct me if I'm wrong, it might have been one of the hardest times that you've had to be obedient to God. So what does that look like? What is obedience to you? What does that look like? And why was it a non-negotiable to disobey?
Gosh, that's such a good question. Well, I can tell you what disobedience looks like.
Okay. Tell me. I think we all know a bit about that.
God put me on a travel ban. I call it the travel ban because the Lord said when I moved back from being overseas for a few years, God said, I don't want you to travel anymore. You're not allowed to leave the country. And this was in 2017. No, this is in 2018. 2018. And I said, why? And he didn't tell me why. He just said, you're not leaving the country. Don't leave the country. And I fought him on it. And I was like, okay, yeah, whatever. And then a few months later, there was a Zumba music video being filmed in the Dominican Republic that naturally I wanted to be in. So I flew to the Dominican Republic. And as someone who's been on probably countless planes, I was vomiting getting on the plane, knowing I was operating outside of the will of God. Like, he told me not to go. And I was going anyway. And I felt like Jonah and the whale. Like the Lord's like, you wanted to run?
Right.
You wanted to run. Go ahead. You know? That was one of my very clear lessons among so many others that you can read about in my upcoming book.
Let's go.
Of disobedience. The manuscript is sitting right there on my counter.
Goodness.
But yeah, I think I've learned the hard way. You know, like I've gotten myself into some really sketchy situations, life-threatening sketchy situations, not being obedient. And then I've also been on the other side of that, of obeying and seeing the blessing. Like my car, if that's not like a blessing on a blessing on a blessing on a blessing, because, right, God said, wait, I'm going to give you the cash for the car. I bought my Lexus in cash because the Lord sent me a check in the mail for that car, you know, which was then totaled a couple weeks later and then untotaled and rebuilt, also free to me. You know, it's just like every time I've obeyed, he's gone so above and beyond in blessing the obedience that now it's like I have a history with God of his plans being so much more fulfilling than my own.
It's beautiful.
That it's like, why, I could, roll with the punches that I've made for myself, but why do that when he's going to far surpass anything? I wanted to buy a Nissan and the Lord bought me a Lexus. Like, if that doesn't describe the character of the Lord,
Right. That's beautiful. All right. I love that answer. So let's go back to you obeying God, you being in Reading.
Yeah.
You're here for graduation. You're sick. Right. You're still pushing through because you're meant to walk for that graduation that you worked hard for.
Yeah.
What does that scenario look like? And what are the next steps that actually made you be here today?
It almost was just like a bunch of divine appointments, like I went home from graduation and still sick. My best friend, Victoria, her boyfriend, my parents had driven from Miami to Northern California, almost 60 hours in their RV, like all to be here for my graduation. And then here I am sick in bed my hair keeps bothering me. Sorry. For a lot of the time that I was here. And so I'm in bed and I hadn't even watched Forgive me, BSSM. I hadn't even watched the class about third year because I was like, I'm not doing it. I don't want to. I'm so over trying to balance ministry school work and running my own ministry that I was like, I'm not doing another year of this. And so I'm watching the class about third year, and they're like, there's a mentor list you can look at and then apply to different mentors. Essentially, mentor is like a boss because the third year program is an internship. Right. So I'm like, I never even looked at the list. And so I said, okay, let me just go look at the list since I'm in bed with nothing to do, And I look at the list and I see Iris on the list. And I didn't even know that Iris was an option because I had never looked at the list, And Iris was who I went to Cambodia with for that trafficking project. And I'm sitting there going, okay, so after Cambodia, I went to Korea. And in Korea, I went to Korea before Cambodia and after Cambodia. So I did 3 countries, or 2 countries, but like 3 back to back. When I left in March, I went to Korea and then Cambodia, and then back to Korea and then back to the States in April. And I thought I was going to Korea just because I loved Korea and I'd had a good time there. When I lived there a few years ago, I didn't have any idea that I was going there for ministry. That was just not even a thought in my head.
Right.
And then I came home being like, okay, so trafficking is my calling and Korea is my place. Like, I loved Cambodia. I learned a lot in Cambodia. It's a great place to go to learn about trafficking because it happens right in front of you. It's not in Korea. It's a bit more behind closed doors. In Cambodia, you see it in the street. So you can learn a lot there. And so it was a great place to learn, but I really felt like the Lord was like, you did your stint in Southeast Asia because I already lived in Vietnam. But that's not where I'm taking you. And so when I came back from that trip, I'm like, okay, let's say I do want to run a trafficking ministry. And let's say I do want to do it in Korea. I know business. I know nothing about running a nonprofit. I know nothing about running a ministry. Like, my women's ministry is American.
Right. Very much so.
How do I run a Korean ministry in a language that I'm not fully fluent in? I'm conversational at best on a good day, if that, I can tell my students to quit hitting their friends, And then when I realized, like, oh, I could intern at Iris, one of the most incredible nonprofit, Jesus-loving organizations in the world, and go there, like, as part of BSSM. I didn't even know that the Iris HQ was on Bethel's campus. Like, I knew nothing,
right.
And so I'm having these thoughts, and the next day, I was at the church. Why was I at? It was Bethel. It was healing rooms. It was a healing rooms, and my dad the Lord is healing him from cancer, but he is not cancer free yet.
Not yet.
And we went to the healing rooms, and I remember I prayed when I was watching this class. I said, Lord, if you want it to be Iris, right, I want signs, and I want Iris specific signs, not generic signs, not Bethel signs, not third year signs. Like, you better make it clear that Iris is the spot, right? So we go to the healing rooms, and the healing rooms, if you don't know what that is, that's basically where you go to the church on a Saturday morning, and they have people there that pray for healing. And so we were taking my dad there to get prayer. And they put us with this couple, and then they asked my mom and I to back away to let the couple pray over my dad without us, like, hovering over them. And a lady comes up to me who I think was working there. I don't know who she was. She said, do you know who's praying for your dad? And I said, no, I don't know anybody in this room. I don't know who any of these people are. I've never been here before. And she said, they live in Thailand. She said, do you know who Heidi and Roland Baker are? And I'm like, if you're in the ministry world, you know who Heidi and Roland Baker are, right? They are the creators of Iris, who I now work for. But they're some of the most famous missionaries in the world. And she said, the people praying over your dad, that's their brother and sister. And they're missionaries in Thailand, but they're here for the weekend. And they didn't tell anybody they were coming because they didn't want to make a big fuss because they're kind of known, whatever. But they're Iris missionaries. And she said, don't tell anyone who they are because it'll make a commotion,
Right.
And she said, I just wanted you to know that's who's praying over your dad.
Confirmation.
And I was like, okay. I wanted an Iris confirmation. There's Iris missionaries that live in Asia that are in town for the weekend praying over my father right now. I'm like, okay, God, I see you, you know, but I'm like, not enough. I need another.
Right.
And
isn't it crazy how we get so stubborn when we're in denial?
I'm like, I want multiple confirmations.
Right.
I'm not going to uproot my whole life.
I'm like, you could do better, God.
Exactly. That was literally my thought. So that was Sunday. No, that was Saturday. Right. And then on Sunday, we went to church. Bethel's 11,000 people. So the likelihood that you're going to randomly sit next to somebody that you know, especially me, I don't live here, so I know maybe 10 people in the whole place out of those 11,000. And sitting in front of us is Jin, who was my trip leader in Cambodia. And I'm like, of all the people for me to run into today. And so I go up to her and I said, Jin, this sounds probably really crazy, really weird. But I'm thinking about applying to Iris for third year. And she's like, oh my gosh, Sean, our other Cambodia trip leader, his wife works in the Iris office. I think that would be perfect for you. I'm going to text him, go have lunch with them. And so I texted Sean and I was like, hey, I'm in town. Would love to grab lunch with you and your wife. You know, kind of forgot about it, frankly, and just went on with my day. And, I forgot. And Saturday after the healing rooms, I was literally thinking, if there's one person, like, I would want a confirmation from about doing third year, it's my friend Krista, who went to VU, moved to BSSM in person, did third year, and now lives in LA. And I'm looking at my phone, and I'm like, let me just text her. She lives in Los Angeles, right? Like 9 hours from where we are. And I said, Krista, I have to talk to you about something. And she's like, great, I'm at the church. Where are you?
Wow.
You're at the church. In Redding? Yeah, I'm at the church. I'm at Bethel. Where are you? You know? And I'm like, why are you here? So literally we were just pulling out of the parking lot when I had texted her. I was like, Dad, turn the car around. So we're just leaving the healing rooms, right?
Yes.
Turn the car around. Go drop me off at the church. So I'm sitting with her and I'm beaming. Like I'm smiling so hard, telling her about what God said at graduation and the healing rooms and da-da-da. And I'm like, I don't want to move here and I don't want to do third year. And I don't know why I'm smiling so hard. She's like, Katey, you're like glowing. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't know why, because I don't want this, but I'm smiling about it and I can't figure it out, you know? And I was like, I need more confirmations. So we go to the bookstore or whatever. We're in line for the bookstore for like 2 or 3 hours because it's graduation. There's tons of people.
Everyone wants.
And we walk out of the Bethel bookstore and I run into 2 of my friends from my class online. So they don't live in Redding either, right? One lives in Seattle. Brian, you met him this week. And then another one lives in Los Angeles. And they were both out there. And I was like, hey, you know, good to see you guys. Oh, you're in Redding. Are you here for graduation? You know, yeah, of course. And Brian goes, yeah, I'm moving here. And I said, oh, what are you moving here for? And he goes, I'm doing third year. And Krista's like, you're moving here to do third year, huh? You know? It was just like, she's like, didn't you just ask me for another confirmation? Like now you know someone who's coming from your online class. Like, so I go have lunch with Sean and Joy is now my boss at Iris. And Sean was like, just come to the office, you know, just come like meet the staff, meet the team, you know, what is your vision for your life? And I'm like, I really don't know because I thought I knew and now it's all being flipped upside down. But I know that I want to do trafficking ministry. I know I'm called to Korea, you know, and I have relationships in Korea. And then when I went there after Cambodia, a bunch of doors swung open that I didn't even know existed. And he's like, we support you. And I'm like, what does that mean?
Right.
You know, like, what is that? He's like, whatever you want to do, we'll support you, you know? And he's like, I was with you in Cambodia. Like, I know your heart. I know who you are. He's like, you know, it's not like you're coming. He's like, some Bethel students walk into this office or anybody walks in and we don't know them. So it's not that we don't want to get behind them. We just have to get to know them. He's like, I don't need to get to know you. I know you. You know? And it was just like another confirmation. Like, he didn't say anything specific.
Right.
But it was just another confirmation of God being like, it's already done. The COO of Iris. Right. You know?
Right. It's almost like it's already done. we're waiting for you.
Or waiting on you. Yeah, that's what it felt like.
Right.
I'm waiting on you. And I went to the Sunday night service at church after that lunch, or after, I don't know, this was all within like less than 3 days.
Wow.
And I'm at the Sunday night service, which you experienced last night, right?
Yes.
Like intense worship, amazing.
Very much.
And I look down and my hands are covered in gold glitter. And the only time I'd ever seen gold dust before was and if you don't know what that is, it's a Holy Spirit, manifestation. And the only time I'd ever seen gold dust was in Cambodia. We were praying on a fortune teller, we were praying for a fortune teller for healing in her knees. And when we took our hands off of her knees were covered in gold dust, which just looks like gold glitter.
Right.
But I'd never seen it on me. That was the only time I've ever seen it. And I'm staring at my hands, and I'm like asking my girlfriend, I'm like, did I wipe my hands on my face? Like, why is there glitter all over me, And she's like, oh my gosh, there's gold dust on your hands. And I was like, you see that too, right? Like, I'm not imagining this. And it was just like confirmation after confirmation after confirmation. I walk into the Iris office and I meet this girl named Marissa. She's the daughter of the people who prayed for my dad and the healing of those Thailand missionaries. And she's like, hi, I run this office. Da, da, da. She's like super bubbly and amazing. And it was just like literally what you said, like God was just waiting on me,
right?
And I still wasn't convinced when I left Reading. I was like, okay, so you want me to work with Iris, and okay, I see how that could, be help equipping me for doing international ministry so I can learn how to, operate in a nonprofit world. And Sean's like, Katey, I just want you to understand the way that you're used to operating is not how we operate here. It's not going to make sense. The stuff that we do, sometimes we make the decision of doing the thing that's not profitable because that's what we feel God on. Whereas coming from an accounting background, you would be like, that's not profitable. Why are you doing that?
Right.
And he's like, I just don't want you to get here and expect us to operate like a normal business because we don't operate that way. And I'm thinking of so many specific stories, but I don't know how many of them are, in-house conversations.
How about this? You could talk to us about what it was like to have that kind of lifestyle while actually managing a ministry, coming up with your own ministry, working on your own ministry of people, women that stand behind you, but within your leadership, and also at the same time do that. Be also the amazing boss woman that you are within your business, right? An entrepreneur, as a lot of you guys have heard within this podcast. And then also at the same time being obedient to God into the season that, though it's uncertain, it looks like you're more in than out.
Yeah.
So how would you have managed to, what was your thought process when, all of these things are in front of you, all of these things are already in the works, working on a book as well, and then God is like, just FYI, we're changing things up.
Yeah. I feel like, I don't even know how to answer that. Mm-hmm. I feel like with God, you have to hold everything with an open hand. The minute that you try to close your hand on what he's given you, you're almost like closing your hand to the new blessing. Sure, you can keep the blessing that you got. My Miami apartment was such a gift. Even when I was touring apartments, looking for that apartment, I was touring apartments with the eyes of the Lord told me to start a ministry. I need a place that I can host women. Right. And I need a place where I'm still sick and a place that will be comfortable for me, to spend a lot of time at home. And so I got this beautiful, overly expensive apartment that if the Lord hadn't been on it, I probably wouldn't have had even the guts to get, just from a financial perspective. Right. But the minute that I tried to close my hand on that apartment, and I could have said, no, I'm not leaving Miami. And God would have said, fine.
Right.
I gave you free will. He never is trying to take our free will. He would have let me stay, but it would have shut off all these new blessings that he wants to unleash, you know? And so it's like, yeah, the podcast, even my staff for the podcast was a gift for a season that I've had to let go of, you know? Like, you have to make financial decisions that are not always the ones that you want to make in order to go after the things he's putting in front of you. And it was like, yeah, I could have 2 full-time staff helping me run this podcast and do episodes every week, or I could go after this new direction of ministry that he's trying to take me and slow down the podcast, because it was still, the podcast was a God dream, you know? It's not no, it's we're pivoting the way that we're operating. Are you willing to pivot? You have to be willing to just literally pivot on a dime.
I love that.
And have it with an open hand. The minute you close your hand, you're shutting yourself down. Like, you can't just rely on the things that he gave you. Like, I had a friend who had a gorgeous wedding ring, and the Lord told her to give it to a homeless person. And she was like, Katey, that was my most prized possession, and the Lord told me to give it away. Not because I couldn't get another one. You know, I could get another one. But, like, in that moment, are you willing to be obedient? Are you going to hold that precious treasure I gave you with an open hand so that I can give you a different blessing?
Right. Yeah, it's crazy because sometimes we tend to limit what God wants to do within our lives by not being open, like you say. We have our wrists are closed. We don't have it open for him.
Project in the mic so I can hear you.
So that we could actually receive.
Yeah.
That being said, you know, we talked about this. It's hard to do so, but it's harder. You and I have both lived in the, oh, by the way, God. Oh, by the way, God, I'm doing this year.
Yeah.
You're including God, but you're including God.
You can come with me.
Right. You can
come with me.
Absolutely. I'm including you, God, right? Like, this is just an FYI. I'm doing it. It's not an if or, like, it's not in question whether I'm going to do it or not. It's, I'm definitely doing it. You just please tag along with it, you know? And we've seen the consequences of that. I know we personally, in our own way, have done so. And the consequences, though, you know, God always has, his grace is so amazing because he will still use it. Yeah. However, what would have happened if we would have been obedient? What things would we have avoided if we would have said yes from the beginning? So I applaud you for saying yes from the beginning, though it's hard, especially when you were strongly, like 90% want to say absolutely not. Yeah. So that we now know why. Right?
This is why. This is why. One piece of the puzzle we have.
Now you are in Cali. You're in Redding. Mm-hmm. You are in the yes.
We're living in the yes.
You're living in the yes. You're living in the yes that has recently started. However, your business is still running. Yep. Your ministry is still running. Yes. Your book is still being written. Yes. So what do you think?
Literally and figuratively?
Literally.
I'm literally staring at the manuscript on the counter being like, I need to finish that.
Right. So what now?
Yeah. Right? I wish I knew.
I love that because a lot of people feel like they have to figure it out. Yeah. And that's just part of the process of trusting God. So
even like living in an Airbnb, I don't have a contract, you know, of like how long I'm supposed to be here, or, you know, like it's literally everything is just, I'm here until God says move. I'm here until God says pivot, you know. I'm hoping to be able to lead a mission trip to Korea in April.
Let's go.
You know, yes. that is a huge thing that I'm hoping to do in April. And if God says no in April, then maybe in August. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a yes or no. Can you do it? It's just like, when is he on it? I really do feel like he's on it. It's just a case of when. I know I'll be returning to Korea a lot. Will I live there permanently?
I literally thought you were going to say, I know I'll be returning to Miami. And I'm like, what?
Nope. I don't. I think everybody else thinks that. Yeah. People are like, you're coming back. I think it helps that my parents are in the Keys, you know, so like I'll be in Miami for Christmas. But I'll be in Korea. Like, it wasn't this like stint of, when I lived there, I was still very much in my party phase and not going to church. I didn't know anything about ministry in Korea. I didn't even know any Christians in Korea. And if you had looked at my life, the people who did know me, if you'd asked them, is Katey a Christian? They probably would have said no. Or they would have said hypocritically, sure.
Right.
I really wasn't living that way. And even when I go back to Korea, I always wonder, like, what do my friends in Korea think seeing me now versus the person that they knew, when I lived there. Not that I was ever malicious to them or anything like that, but I wasn't living a purity lifestyle. I wasn't celibate. So there was that part of my life. But I don't know if I'll live there not permanently. I don't know if I'll live there like full time again, but that's definitely where the Lord is calling me. And I'm helping spearhead a trafficking project here in Redding with some friends, that we're not just like randomly getting together. I've been asked to help spearhead this project. There's some leaders. Two of the leaders are people from the Cambodia trip I was on. I think there's 6 of us on the project because Redding is apparently a huge trafficking hub. I had no idea.
Wow.
So I really feel like the Lord's not just like, here's Iris, but also like, and here's how you pioneer a new trafficking project. It's not even like, oh, come volunteer with the trafficking.
Right.
It's, we're doing research and development. Like, who is being trafficked? How are they being trafficked? Are they American? Are they foreign? Are they children? Are they adults? Are they in massage parlors? Are they in trucks? Are they in storage shipping containers? Like, what does trafficking look like here, and how do you pioneer it? And so for me to even be invited to be part of that project is just mind-blowing to me, that the Lord's like, every piece is preparing you for what we're doing. You don't have all the pieces, but the preparation is in place.
Right. That's so beautiful, because it's, the main topic that we're talking about, like what happens when God tells you to change it up.
Yeah.
Right. What happens? And I think you're seeing the fruit of that little by little, maybe not the final destination. I don't think we ever do. But it's beautiful to see his work already, his hand already in the projects that's been placed in as an opportunity already in front of you. And you're just already showing results. I don't know. Is there anything else that you want to talk about the now, about where you want to be? You talked about the book.
Yeah, the book.
Tell us a little bit more about the book.
The book, it's crazy. I got the title for the book in 2019. I always knew I was going to write a book. I actually always believed I was going to write a lot of books. I still believe that. The Lord gave me the title years ago, and I thought that it would be something I would write, like, when I'm old, like 40, like, like down the road. And then last summer, it just started flowing out of me. I would just wake up with these downloads, and I'm like, I have to get this out of my head. I have to just start. And I just started every day writing, and it would just flow and flow and flow. And finally I got to 22,000 words, which is half of a small book, and I was like, okay, now what? What do I do now? So I had gone to Portugal to visit my book coach. Or she was a friend then. Now she's a book coach. And I was like, I'm stuck. And she said, actually, 20,000 words is where a lot of people fall off. But I have a program, and it will help you reverse outline and figure out where are the holes of, like, where's the through line, what is the story, and then fill in what you've written and where are the holes. And through doing that, that's actually what I spent my summer doing. I spent 3 months reworking the whole book. Not reworking in that I'm not using what I wrote, I am. But it didn't have any structure. It didn't have a through line. It didn't have an arc. It didn't have all the narrative elements. Like, she's the one who's like, and this is how you formally, do that. So it's called Falling in Love with the One Who is Love. At least that's the working title. It could change.
I love that.
Falling in Love with the One Who is Love. And it's really just been my journey. Like it's like a pathway to intimacy because when people used to say, oh, I've fallen in love with Jesus, I'm like, that's gross. That's weird. The whole like daddy God, I was like cringe, you know? Not because it's wrong. It's not theologically incorrect.
Right.
Just to me, I didn't have that intimate relationship with God. And so to me, that was very cringe. Mm-hmm. And I still prefer the term Abba to daddy God, but to each their own, you know, right. Like do your thing. But for me, it was just this journey of growing up as a Christian, completely leaving. I shouldn't say completely, because I never like left God. I never was like, oh, I don't want to be a Christian anymore. I don't love Jesus. Even when I was doing drugs, I was still going to church on Sundays. Not because I was trying to be a hypocrite. I would go in the balcony. I went to a mega church in Dallas. I'd go in the balcony and I'd sit alone and cry. So it wasn't like this, oh, I'm living this perfect lifestyle. Look at me, right. Church. It was like, I'm so broken. I don't know how to get out of these cycles. Maybe if I go to church, I'll meet God again and it will help me get free. That was more the mentality around it, you know? And then I picked up my whole life and moved to South Korea, you know? Realizing God was leading me there, like I was right. Like, God, I need to leave. I'm leaving. So either you tell me where to go or I'm just going to randomly pick a place on a map. That was the conversation. And I really felt the Lord lead me to South Korea. And now looking back, right, it all makes sense. But right. Back then, my parents were livid. Everyone was like, you're crazy. You're throwing away your corporate job that you got at 23. At this point, I was turning 25. Like, you're throwing away everything that you've built because God told you to move to South Korea. So, like, moving to California didn't seem like this huge thing because I was standing on right. My history with God of, up and move and start your life over. Right. And isn't seeing that play out, even with me running away and even with me, like, I didn't ever do drugs in South Korea. I did party a lot. But it did help me get out of some of the cycles I was in, you know? And I built some incredible relationships. Even when I went back, I was shocked that my Korean friends also wanted to hang out with me. I thought they're like, I haven't seen you in 7 years. You know, like I literally thought they would like not care. And every single one of them was like, yeah, let's have dinner. You know, I was shocked. But
I find that super beautiful. I find that super beautiful because sometimes it's like God placing us in situations that he's placed us before. Because we all know that God will do it again. Yeah. Right? We know that God will do it again, but it's a matter of like proving to ourselves, right? Keeping that promise to ourselves that will we obey again. Yeah. God will place us in that situation where he will allow the tests to come where we have to say yes. Otherwise, like what you're dreaming of won't come to fruit. Like what he's placed in our hearts won't come to fruit if we don't say that yes in the first place. And he's okay with waiting, but are we? Yeah. Right. So
do you want to delay your destiny?
Right. Been there, done that.
Do you want to delay your destiny? It's a yes or no question.
Maybe that should be your next podcast.
Talking about obedience.
Let's go. Well, I'm super happy. I'm proud of you for what you've accomplished. I'm proud of you for continuing to say yes when you don't want to. I am proud of you for this new season. I cannot wait to continue sitting in the sidelines of what God's doing in your life. And honestly, what he'll do with the book, what he will do with the mission that he's placed you on, what he's placed in your heart. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if there's anything else that you want to say regarding that, you know, but God made me.
Yeah, I don't think so. I just feel like it's like a ... season, right? Like,
love that.
Here's what's happening, ... Where is it going? I don't know. What are we doing? Not sure. You know, like, right. It's just to be determined. Everything is to be determined. You know, like the book in my head, it's written. A lot of it's written. Some of it, I just need to like get the rest of it out of my head, you know, but it's all beginning to, like, I know how it starts, I know how it ends, the whole thing's outlined, and I just need to fill in some of the stories. But I even had talked to my book coach, like, but it's not over. And she's like, yeah, but a book is not supposed to be your whole life. Like the book is a time capsule of a lesson or of a time or of a, and I thought that was so beautiful. Like, it's not over.
Right.
You know, it's just like that chapter's closed. The new chapter started. The new chapter's the next book. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, it's the sequel, you know, it's ... It's, what is this podcast going to look like? It's entrepreneurship, accounting, and lifestyle. It's all the above. The last two were about accounting and the next two are going to be lifestyle. You know, it's learning, how do you balance ministry with your God dreams? How do you balance, you know, what you thought, like what I thought this year was going to look like. Like, I hired 3 people this year and only one of them I'm still keeping. And it's not because they were bad or because I was bad or because they were not, you know, some left on their own and some I just said this we can't continue this way, not because of anything that they did wrong,
right,
but I'm pivoting, right, and it's just like you have to be willing to. I thought it was going to be 80% business, 20% ministry. But God had other plans, right? Like, so it's 80% ministry from a time perspective, right? Like, I had to hire new people so that the business could keep running. I'm not going to not get my clients' work done because I'm doing other things. Any serial entrepreneur will tell you, like, in this season, I focused on this business, and on this season, I focused on this business, and the businesses don't fail. You just have to hire more staff, you know? Right. But it's different staff. The people I needed changed. You know, like what they were doing changed, the roles changed, the percentage of focus changed, the percentage of input changed, the way that I manage had to change. I couldn't be in the room with them all the time because now I'm in the Iris office. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I think it's just learning how to realize that what you're doing, maybe it's still the dream. The dream didn't change, but like the way that it looks is not the way you thought it was going to look. And the way that you're living is not the way you thought you were going to live. And it's not because the dream is dead. It's just in this season, it looks different than you thought it was going to.
Like the goal and the calling is still the same. What changed was the path.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love that. What changed is the path. And like, you can't be hung up on anything being your way. That's a big thing that I had to just let go of. You know, like we get so hung up on, at least me, I shouldn't say we. I get so hung up on control. I like things to look a certain way. Right. You know, and when you hire people, they don't do things the way that you do them. Mm-hmm. Right. You could micromanage them, but you're putting them in a box. Why would you do that? Right. You know, some things like accounting, they have to be done a certain way because they have to be accurate, but
they have to be legal.
Right. Legal. We can get to the same number doing 2 different things.
Right.
You know what I mean? And realizing that when I'm stepping back from my business, maybe not everything is going to be done the way that I would have done it, or even conferences. Like I gave up 3 conferences I wanted to speak at this year, in-person accounting conferences, because I'm giving my whole to Iris in this season. Right. You know, and it's just learning sometimes the control that I wanted to have is not going to get me where God's going to take me. So I have to just let it go. And it's like so Christianese cliche, but living it is still kind of smacks you in the face.
Oh, absolutely.
So there's that.
I love that. I think that's a great way to end.
Yeah. Thanks for interviewing me.
This is fun. Over here, fun. I'm like, how do I stand with like my Katey shoes? How do I make it look? I'm like, are they
but make it Katey.
But make it Katey. You know, a little bit of Miami.
Yeah. I brought my fur blanket. I brought my LED lights. So, but make it Miami. You know, yeah, we're still
keep it pink.
We're keeping it pink. Everybody at Bethel's like, you wear a lot of pink. I said, thank you.
They don't know the half of it.
I know. I'm like, and I only brought like a third of my pink wardrobe here.
Oh my God.
I'm toning it down for the people. Anyway, thank you, everyone.
Let's go.
For tuning into another episode of the Entrepreneur Life Podcast. And remember, today's a great day to start a business or a ministry. Bye.
Bye.